Welcome to this special episode of An Echo of Glory. I had a chat with Jan Åge Fjørtoft. You'll remember him. He scored against Spurs for Swindon in 1994, but he's also an Eintracht Frankfurt legend, played for the club, still supports the club. So we talked about that massive game on Thursday night. Delighted to be joined by Eintracht Frankfurt legend Jan Åge Fjørtoft. Jan, thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be on, boys.
Thank you. So we'll start with last week, the first leg. You were there at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, 1-1 draw. How did you see the game? Personally, I was surprised I didn't see more from Eintracht, but was that a plan? Just get back to Germany still intact?
I don't think it was a plan to play average. Great start of the game with Ekitike getting that goal. Then they got, unfortunately, a bit too deep, and they managed to create so much space for example, Maddison. As a Maddison, when he gets that space, he can kind of run the show, and that's why also Tottenham created so many chances there. And we have to be honest, that should be a win for Tottenham. Having said that, to come back to Frankfurt, we're 1-1. Very important. I was a part of the official delegation because I'm an ambassador for Eintracht Frankfurt, and I was with the management afterwards, and they felt fortunate to come back. They had a game on Sunday against Heidenheim where they played very well, by the way. So that was a good preparation for the game. But I think Eintracht were lucky not to lose that game.
And how do you see tomorrow night going? Totally different game, different atmosphere. Eintracht so strong at home. Do you see Eintracht being sort of slightly more attacking in their performance?
The funny thing is that I was thinking about that before the game as well. Tottenham and Eintracht Frankfurt are a bit similar. They're similar clubs. The Eintracht Frankfurt is called the Launische Diva, the diva who you never know what's the mood will be, which team will come out. Yeah. And I guess that is a good definition of Tottenham, as it's been over for Frankfurt. But the last years, Frankfurt, especially in the Europa League, they've been brilliant. As we remember, they won the cup. They were in the semi-final, being undeservedly knocked out by Chelsea back in the day. So I think it's an open game. I will give the home advantage to Eintracht Frankfurt because there's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere in the stadium, as the Frankfurt fans are very good at doing that. But when you take man for man in the team of Tottenham, there are more than enough quality to win that game. So I actually excuse myself, but I need to say that I'm nervous as an Eintracht fan, but I think it is an open game with a slight home advantage for Eintracht.
Talk to us about the club itself, a club you've played for. I know you scored a massive goal keeping them in the Bundesliga a few years or many years ago.
Many years.
Yeah. Is it a sleeping giant? I mean, they're third in the Bundesliga at the moment. It's a difficult league to win. You've got Bayern, you've got Leverkusen, Dortmund when they're on it. Would you say it's a sleeping giant? Should they be pushing Bayern and by Leverkusen a little bit more?
I guess there is in all leagues, there are many sleeping giants. In Germany, there are some sleeping giants now in the Zweite Liga with Schalke, Hertha Berlin and Hamburger Sportverein, especially the old team of Kevin Keegan in Germany for the older listeners. Yes, I think that the target for Eintracht Frankfurt is to be best of the rest. Because in terms of turnover, in terms of interest, in terms of people in the stadium, Bayern and Dortmund will always be number one. But Eintracht Frankfurt is an unbelievable good organized club. They are professional in every level of the club. They have 600 employees in their house called the Profi Camp next to the stadium. They are the club that provide a passion and identity to a city that is filled up with banks. And the business-to-business concept at Eintracht is sensational. So the potential is absolutely there. But as we know in football, you have to take it step by step. There is no shortcut in Germany because you have the 50+1 rules, and there's nothing that someone will just come in and give you all the money in the world. But Bayer Leverkusen showed last season that it's possible for even Leverkusen, for Eintracht Frankfurt, maybe RB Leipzig, to take that next step. And I think that Eintracht Frankfurt, they are there as they are at the moment, based on great work, great disciplined work, also in terms of finances. This is a club that got Moani for free, sold him for 95 million euro. Later, they got Mamouche for free, sold him for 80 million. They're going to Ekitike. It will probably be a bit the same story. Will sell him for a lot of money. So this is a club that is doing very well at the moment, but although Dortmund is way beyond now in the table, still the potential of especially Dortmund and Bayern are enormous, even by German standards.
You mentioned Marmouche there. I think some of these clubs have to sell to survive. How have they reacted to the selling, and how did the fans react? Did they accept this is part of being Eintracht Frankfurt?
I think this is part of every club. I think that we shouldn't make no secret of this, that the only club in the world that don't have to sell players is Real Madrid, if we're very honest, because Real Madrid is seen as the final destination for every player. You come to the football heaven, so to say. But the most clubs, if a player wants to leave, they will sell him, like you saw with Manchester City when they sold Alvarez. So this will happen in any club. But the interesting and kind of fun fact of Eintracht Frankfurt is that the last years they've sold so many strikers, starting off with Rebic, Jovic, Aller. They had 3 strikers who took them all the way, and then they had to sell, and then they sold all of them suddenly. Then they sold Silva was there, then they sold Mamouche and Moani. So they're used to this. They have one, I will say, one of the best people in and around the club is the head of sport, a guy called Markus Krösche, who is fantastic in terms of defining and find the right talents and sell them with profit. They have a CEO in Axel Hellmann, who is the best in the business. So they are prepared, and they know that at the stage they have to sell players. Even Bayern, you're saying that people need to sell to survive. Even Bayern now need to sell players, although they don't have to sell their best players, but they still have to sell players to get a turnover well.
It's interesting because obviously we've got rid of one of our, if not the best player we've ever had. Okay, Solanke's a decent centre forward. He's no Harry Kane. And you mentioned all those strikers there. People go, there are no strikers out there, but it's a great list that Eintracht have had. Just talking on Spurs, not just last week, how do you see the situation at the moment? Obviously languishing in 15th, clinging on to this Europa League spot. How have you seen it?
Well, as an official delegation, I had a chance to be up with the Blazers. So it was interesting to see that club from that point of view, although I didn't have so many conversations, although I met your CEO, of course. But I think that with Tottenham, it's been the same as in many clubs. The hardest thing is to change a culture. And how do you change a culture? You do that by try to get the right managers. You try to get the right manager to have the continuity that at least on the pitch, you find your way of playing. I think Tottenham fans will probably be so sick of hearing about the Tottenham way to play and all that kind of things. Even back in my days and before, when I was interested in football, it had been a Glenn Hoddle, Steve Archibald. I mean, all the great players you had with Teddy Sheringham getting into my time of playing in England. But I think that at the end of the day, it's all about getting a team that can compete for titles, and that's what you need. I mean, and you guys are so close now, of course, when we see how many games is left to get into a final. But I think that is down to that. And if I see Tottenham from outside, I see it a bit like Manchester United after Sir Alex, but you've had it for a longer time. You are kind of searching for your identity, and you're not sure who's going to be the talisman for that culture. You have a Pochettino that built up something, got you into the Champions League final. Then maybe, I would say maybe, because I don't know every details to it. Why was he fired? You can ask that.
Good question.
And then you go for the what you think, and that is not only Tottenham doing that mistake. Even Manchester United done that mistake big time. Is that you go for after the manager that will win you something, but maybe that kind of winning mentality kind of trainer or manager is not the same that can kind of fulfill the culture of a club. So for me, you'll always start with the culture, and then the consequence will be the managers you've in. I mean, if you see that you have Conte, Mourinho, Postecoglou, I mean, they're so different coaches. Yeah. So I think that for Tottenham and the likes of Tottenham, is all about who are we, and take it from there. And I will say I love watching Tottenham, as I always had, or even when you see the team now, there are so many good players in there, but somehow it doesn't match up on the pitch, and we know that, and Postecoglou know that, we all know that it's easier to fire a manager than 23 players. Yeah. So we know the process of everything, but I'm not sure that is the key to a club like Tottenham.
I agree. Well, you mentioned we're close to potential success, possibly in the semi-final. Bodo Glimt or Lazio. Bodo 2-0 up from the first leg. Tell us a little bit about them, a team that not many would have heard of. They've made strides in Europe over the last few years, but this is a story.
Unbelievable. The Bodo Glimt is up north. I'm sitting here in my ski outfit. I mean, I would say that jokingly that Bodo, they will always have the ski outfit on. That is very north. It's nearly in Santa Claus country. But they have a top management on and off the pitch. They're slowly talking about culture, building up a culture at the club in terms of finances. But the key thing was get the coach Kjetil Knutsen. They're very disciplined to their way of playing. A consequence of that is that when they sell players, they come back after 5 minutes because they like to be in that collective. I was like I said, at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium watching the second half of that game, Lazio Bodo Glimt. I was following it live on my phone, and they should have won 5 or 6. And I was even there when they beat Jose Mourinho's Roma 6-1 up there back in the day. So this success of theirs have not come out of nothing. Is a consequence of great work on and off the pitch. But let's see now. Lazio Rome is 2-0, and we saw yesterday, as we are speaking on the Wednesday, we saw yesterday there are some potential comebacks coming around the corner. Even Dortmund yesterday, you saw Aston Villa could have nearly done that against PSG. So let's see if they go through. I mean, I will say that it's a dream semi-final of Eintracht Frankfurt and Bodo Glimt. But I know, of course, the interest of English football in Norway is that the dream of every Norwegian fan or Bodo Glimt fan is, of course, to get Tottenham up to Santa Claus.
Well, you mentioned the atmosphere at Eintracht. What about the atmosphere, maybe in a different way at Bodo with the temperatures? And obviously that was different. Do you see them? Can they get through tomorrow night?
I can see they're doing that. I was also there when they played that. After that 6-1 in Bodo, they played Roma. They played 2-2 there. They had a great game. They should have won that game. Mourinho lost it a bit after the game, by the way, in my interview, which was always funny. I think it's always funny when Jose Mourinho loses it, because that's great TV. Yeah. And that was a good memory. But I can see them go through, but I'm not sure because there is going to be an unbelievable pressure on them as well in Stadio Olimpico. But talking about atmosphere, you will, if they're going to be Tottenham Bodo Glimt, I will give you some travel advice, because you will love it to go to Bodo.
We're all coming to stay in your cabin. Moving away from Thursday night, and just as a Premier League legend, playing for Swindon in 93-94, famously, certainly in these circles, scoring against Tottenham. You'd scored the week before, about 4 days before, against Ipswich in the FA Cup, but it'd been a difficult start for the club and for yourself. But your memories of that goal against Tottenham?
Yeah, it was a very difficult start. I got injured in the first Premier League game. This is the second season in the Premier League's history. That's how old I am. But I was struggling. I got an injury. Didn't want to tell the manager because I wanted to play on hope to have that fluke goal, that something hit me in the head and went in. But I couldn't get that first goal, losing my confidence. And the funny thing is that I scored for the national team in the same period. So it was one of those situations that I'm thinking, wow, maybe I'm not suited for this league. And so it took me time to get in. And as you were saying, I got my goal in the FA Cup against Ipswich. And then the next game was against Tottenham. Tottenham, I got to play against Colin Calderwood, who just left Swindon to go to Tottenham when they got promoted. So I knew I was going to play with Colin Calderwood, but I also knew that I'm going to play with Erik Thorstvedt, who was my roommate at the national team. And Erik got injured quite early in the game, and he was taken off the pitch. So I went over to him and said, "Oh, you're a fucking coward, because I'm supposed to do my first Premier League goal now, and you go off. You're so a coward." So, and Ian Walker came on, and just some few minutes later, I scored my first Premier League goal. And to be fair, I didn't look back. I scored, I think, 12 Premier League goals in 14 games. Only Letizia scored more than me in that second half of the season. So I always say I had no idea why I didn't score, and I had no idea why I scored when I got into the Premier League. But I always enjoyed to play Tottenham because they're well-known players, and there was always Colin Calderwood. I also played with Gary Mabbott. That was special for me. He was a role model for us all. And I remember that because I remember in a game where it was a duel, and I was fouled. And the next duel with not with Gary, but a teammate of his. So I went hard into it. He came over. "What's wrong? Why did you do that?" And I said, "But he just did it before me." And he said, two wrong doesn't make it good." And I think, okay, thank you, Gary. that is advice on a football pitch. But it was great, and I was also part of playing Tottenham at the end of my Premier League career when I played for Barnsley. I remember Tottenham coming to Barnsley, coming there with Jürgen Klinsmann. That is not a good friend through TV, the TV business. I remember he came into our stadium and he saw the smallest dressing room in the world, and I was telling him, "Well, this is the dressing room." And so great memory of Tottenham. And I played with some of them as well.
Yeah, and you played with some ex-Spurs, Mickey Hazard at Swindon. He's joined us on the pod, and you've played with some ex-Spurs, Erik Thorstvedt and probably Øyvind Leonardsen at Norway. And you mentioned earlier, Spurs is quite popular in Scandinavia. We've had some ex-Swedish players on here, Eric Edmund, who played. How are Tottenham viewed now? Obviously, you've got the big clubs, City and Chelsea and Man United, but is Spurs still popular in Scandinavia?
Yeah, I mean, English football clubs are very popular in Norway. Liverpool and Manchester United being the number one, then because of Haaland and Ødegaard, City and Arsenal, of course. But Tottenham is like the ones who are a bit older than me. I will always say they're football romantics. I see my uncle is a big Tottenham fan. He goes there once a year with his family. He goes there. I think that is you can take it based on your birth, because in Norway we had match of the day since 1969. Every Saturday we had a game live. And my uncle, he was a typical getting in love with Glenn Hoddle and all the great players you had over the years when you have the first foreigners in Ricardo Villa and Osvaldo Adias. So that was a great football team you had back in the days, and I think that is the destiny. That's a tough thing to be a football fan. And I always, when I meet people, I ask them who they support, and I think I can kind of define them as persons, because you have the guys who will always follow the teams who are top of the league, and you will follow them, and then you have the people who were like, I got a double cousin in my region who is supporting Sheffield United. I remember I played with Sheffield United later, but this was the time when I was 10, and I was thinking, why are you supporting Sheffield United? Now I do understand that he must be a great individual that goes against everything and support the team like this. So Tottenham very popular in Norway, and it's also popular when the players all over came over, and especially Erik Thorstvedt when he went over, one of the most popular footballers in Norway's history, and also a great lad. And I will promise him that I won't mention that shot from Nigel Clough, so I won't do that on the podcast.
Was that his debut? I think.
Yeah, it wasn't his debut.
I remember that. All right, let's get quickly back to tomorrow night. Will we be seeing you Bodo away, or will it be Eintracht Frankfurt, or maybe Lazio? But who's getting through? Who's getting through between Eintracht and Tottenham? Well,
now you are applying to my heart, and I followed Eintracht Frankfurt. I follow Eintracht Frankfurt. I will, of course, say that. I will say, as a Norwegian, and a Norwegian will always like to get English teams in there. I think also for the general dramaturgy of football, Bodo Glimt will be the big thing with Bodo Glimt Tottenham. That is amazing. That if that's happening, the first game there were so much snow on the pitch. There was like before is AstroTurf. Yeah. There will be a lot of thinking about that when you see that pitch. But I have to say heart Eintracht Frankfurt, and I also have to say heart Bodo Glimt.
Well, I hope for you that happens. I obviously think differently.
Yeah, and that is fair enough. But But I think that what we will see on Thursday night is that it'll be a great football game, because Eintracht got to attack a bit more. That means that also Tottenham will get more chances. You have so many good players going forward. If they play out to their potential, they can create chances all over the place. Having said that, I think Eintracht knows that, so they will be a bit waiting a bit. But that is a great thing about the away rule. I mean, now, back in the days, now Eintracht Frankfurt could play on a 0-0, not conceding. Yeah. No, they have to go for it also at home. And I think that is a good consequence of that, taking away that away rule.
Will you be at the game, or are you watching it from?
I was invited, of course, but of course, thank God. But now I will stay home because I'm traveling all the time. So that's why I'll have to take some time off now at Eastern. And let's see who will get the Eastern miracle this time.
Well, Jan, brilliant. Thank you so much for talking to us about Eintracht and about that goal against Spurs. And we really, really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Thank you.